Са заблудени от собственото си правителство, но ние нямаме друг избор. Затова трябва да ги намерите и да ги убиете всички.
Welcome back to another Creature Commandos breakdown with episode 5, where everything is starting to go to shit, and it's all because of Amanda Waller. I have a theory to go with this, but we'll talk about it in a bit after we talk a little bit about the episode, where the episode starts off with Professor McPherson talking about the history of Themyscira, but acting super unprofessional, even writing lesbians on the board, because obviously something else is going on here, and at first I thought that McPherson was just playing Amanda Waller and that she's just been a fraud the entire time. But Frankenstein and Rick Flag kind of point out that that's not true, where this one is acting completely different than the one Rick Flag met back at the base. Now, I love how they kind of both look a little sus as they're kind of hiding in the bushes and everyone's staring at them because of Frankenstein being a monster. So I thought that was funny. And then they decide to show us what Frankenstein did to Bride again and how the Bride set him on fire, because this episode focused on Frankenstein's past, where we see that he was saved by an old gypsy woman after he jumped in the water to douse the flames, and she took care of him. Now, the gypsy woman could be a reference to the House of Frankenstein story, where there was a gypsy woman. And after Frankenstein was saved by this old woman, I at first thought that she might have been a relative of the one that was calling him during the first episode to tell him about Bride going back to their house, because I thought they might have just been helping him throughout the generations. However, that's not the case at all, because that changed by the end of the flashback story. But it was funny to see the Frankenstein talking to this woman and how she's blind, and his reaction to finding out is like, well, if I was blind, I would just kill myself. His very rude, blunt comment was kind of funny. I think he's going to be a meme throughout this, and I kind of like it, and I'm kind of curious to see if he grows at all. Because they try to make him grow in this, where the old gypsy woman was trying to make him realize that you have to love with your heart rather than your eyes, because he's so focused on the bride's beauty, he doesn't see the heart underneath. And we even see that the old woman named Bogdana fell in love with him. She didn't want him to leave, and then he freaking kills her with a metal pot because, well, I guess he just thinks that would be easier for her rather than her having to live with him leaving. The last memory she has of him is somewhat kind. And that's where my theory disappeared for that part of the episode, because she's dead. There's most likely not going to be relatives that were working with him in the future. Now, when we pick up with Rick Flag and Frankenstein going to Professor McPherson's house, Frankenstein thinks a woman walking a cat is a bad omen, which I think is kind of funny, because then they immediately show us that McPherson walked her cat as well, which was kind of a tease for it actually being a bad omen, because then they find the dead McPherson. However, her house was filled with Greek mythology and Amazonian stuff, so that was kind of cool. If you noticed any cool references to Wonder Woman, let me know down in the comments, because I thought this might have just been a reference to the Amazonians and just in general the Greek mythology. Now, the thing is here with Professor McPherson killed, it definitely feels off, where she was most likely killed after she saw Amanda Waller and Rick Flag in them and heard about Cersei's vision, because it turned out that Clayface is pretending to be her. Now, Clayface himself is definitely being more childish and unprofessional, and we are getting a Clayface movie in the future for the DCU, so I'm very interested in seeing how this depiction of the character changes as we go into his own movie. However, after Rick Flag finds McPherson's dead body, he thinks that whoever killed her is working with Cersei, which I don't actually think they're working with Cersei. I think this is where my theory comes in. Clayface could be working with Amanda Waller, because it's super suspicious that after McPherson learned about the prophecy and what was going on, that she would immediately be killed after she went home, which I could totally see Amanda Waller trying to cut out any loose ends and anything else to hide the fact that the world could be ending pretty soon. And it feels like Clayface could have easily been in that prison for Amanda Waller to use him and probably lower his sentence a bit. And it's funny because when we got the Clayface reveal, he's playing Mortal Kombat, which Mortal Kombat is a Warner Brothers property, has had crossovers with DC in the past, so it's fitting that he's playing a game like that. But when Rick Flag and Frankenstein are trying to escape because Clayface is dangerous, they both get caught, and Clayface looked like he was ready for them, which is why it feels like this is a trap that was set up by Amanda Waller, especially because she knew Rick Flag was going to do something rash when he was trying to prevent the princess's death. I mean, he already did do something rash where he called the princess to warn her about the Creature Commandos coming to kill her, which was probably a bad thing, because it definitely feels like after everything this episode that Amanda Waller has now set up the events for that apocalyptic event to happen. However, before I get ahead of myself, we have Rick Flag versus Clayface, and he gets absolutely destroyed. Like, this man gets beaten to a pulp and pretty much killed by Clayface, even getting his back snapped like Batman does by Bane in the comics. But it was a cool moment to see that Frankenstein was able to shock himself to get Clayface off of him. That was a pretty cool tactic, but they really show here that Rick Flag is seemingly dying, which we know is not the case, and he's gonna live through this because he's supposed to be in Peacemaker Season 2 and the Superman movie. So there's no way he's gone but they're definitely taking him out of commission for right now. And I find it absolutely hilarious that Frankenstein only cares about the bride when he was talking to Rick Flag. How is he going to get the bride back now? And I love that Rick Flag was just saying, talk to her, tell her the truth, which I think is kind of funny. So maybe we'll see Frankenstein having a heart-to-heart with the bride in the coming episodes. However, before all this, we get to see the Creature Commandos go against the princess and her army as they have some of the most brutal kills during this season, where Dr. Phosphorus is literally just messing up people left, right, and center by punching Alexei through the head and then stepping on people, walking through a tank and annihilating these guys. Like, he is pretty powerful, and honestly, they're kind of making him more and more insane as we get to know him more. And I guess we'll see him do some more brutal things as we go forward. We even see Bride take on them and take their own tech and use it against them, which was a pretty badass move. And really only Phosphorus and the Bride were doing anything here because Nina and Weasel just disappeared as they ran away. I mean, Nina can't do much to begin with. And during this scene, too, we saw a moment of James Gunn's dog and a memorial for him as they're running through the city. After all this, the princess gives the kill order for the Creature Commandos, and this is pretty much setting up the apocalypse in her working with Gorilla Grodd, killing all the heroes because Amanda Waller has now betrayed her. Amanda Waller pretty much created the apocalyptic event by going and trying to prevent it, because that is most likely how it happened in Cersei's vision, but Cersei didn't have that part of the vision, because her giving Amanda Waller that vision started the events. And it definitely feels like something they would do, because Amanda Waller definitely stepped in to try to kill people or take them out instead of dealing with stuff in a certain way that ends up causing stuff to get a lot worse. And we have seen that happen in both Suicide Squad movies and now this. But this was an interesting episode. I felt like it was definitely like the midway point to set up a bunch of stuff where we have Amanda Waller and the princess becoming the real villains of the season. Most likely with Amanda Waller sending Clayface after McPherson so that they can tie up loose ends, having the princess set out the kill order for the Creature Commandos, and setting up her plot to take over the world because the United States has betrayed her and she can't trust anyone, and just having Rick Flag get sidelined as he has to recover now, and then having Frankenstein being sent after the bride. So these are just moments they're setting up for what's to come in the final few episodes, and I'm really interested to see how they do this season and what's going to be coming from it, because it is doing a great job expanding the DCU already, especially after seeing the Superman trailer. So definitely things are to come and to explode this universe even more, and I'm very curious to see what we see in these next few episodes. But let me know, what do you think of some of these theories I talked about during this episode, and what do you think is going to happen next? Plus, are there any other Easter eggs and references you noticed? I feel like I got them all, but you know, I'm human. I missed some stuff, and I would love to hear any more that you guys saw. Thanks for watching. Make sure to hit the like and the subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot, and you get to stay up to date with all my Creature Commando breakdowns. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you next week when we watch more Creature Commandos.